What's up? I'm Shailene Woodley. I am here in Washington, D.C., standing in solidarity with the Sioux people from Standing Rock Reservation in opposition to the Dakota Access Pipeline.
And so you're out here today, but a couple months back you got involved with the Bernie Sanders campaign. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I started working with the Bernie Sanders campaign as a surrogate in February, I want to say March. Feels like yesterday, but it was a long time ago. And the reason was I was anti-political. If you had told me a year ago that I would be talking at rallies, political rallies, that I would be endorsing a candidate, that I would know political words, I would have laughed at you, because I always considered myself a grassroots activist, somebody who did things from the ground, because I felt like the government was never paying attention to what we did. Nobody, the Army Corps of Engineers, the White House, the Senate, nobody was listening to movements like this, where people stand up and say, you're destroying my water, I don't want this, and here's a solution. So I was anti-political, and Bernie Sanders came into the scene and into the picture, and what he made me realize was that all issues that I care about are political. Clean water is now a political issue, even though it shouldn't be. It is, right? The right to protect our water has to come from the political level. So I started engaging in politics, I started learning about politics, and I realized that as a 24-year-old, really well-educated woman, I didn't know a lot about democracy. I didn't know a lot about our political system. And I thought, well, if I don't know a lot about it, and I actually do keep up with the news, and I do read up on things, and I am well educated, how many people out there who don't necessarily have access to the tools that I have access to, how well educated are they in our political system? And then I started thinking, well, that's not a real democracy, right? It's not real democracy if the people participating in democracy don't even know how to participate or what that looks like. So I started engaging politically. I learned a lot through the process, and I'm still learning a lot about our political system. But the biggest takeaway that I took from the last few months of showing up at rallies, of being a delegate at the DNC, is when people power matches political power, that's when change actually occurs. So moving forward into November, I'm not going to answer questions about who I'm going to vote for or what that looks like right now. But I will say that I'm going to do every single thing I can to register voters, to keep people politically engaged. Because when people show up to the polls, that's when a difference is made. And I've learned that it's one thing to sit at home and complain about things and to want change. It's another thing to actually create change and actually do something. And it all starts on a local level. So yes, it's important for regarding who we're going to vote for in November for our president. But it's in many ways just as important to recognize who we're going to vote for on a congressional level, who we're going to vote for on a local level. Like, who are you going to vote for to be your mayor? And start paying attention to midterm elections. And then, of course, leading up to 2020, help to just keep spreading the word and educating people about why it's so important that progressives get into office.
So Bernie is now out of the race. Hillary is the Democratic candidate. And you've kind of switched gears, and you're concentrating on now this cause, which is an environmental cause. Can you tell me a little bit about this?
Yeah, so what I've been working as well with the people of Standing Rock Reservation. Working's not the right answer, the right word. I've been standing with them since February when they issued a petition to oppose the pipeline being built near their reservation that crosses their treaty water, that when the pipeline breaks, because all pipelines break, a large amount of crude oil would spill into the Missouri River and sacrifice not only the water of the people living on Standing Rock Reservation, which is the third largest Native American reservation in our country, but it would also compromise the water of 18 million people in our country who depend on the Missouri for tap water, for drinking water, for shower water. A lot of us, we turn on our sinks and we don't actually recognize where that water comes from. We take it for granted. And there's sort of this paradigm out there right now where clean water is a privilege, right? I live a privileged life, so I have access to clean water. A lot of people in our country do not live privileged lives and do not have access to clean water. That's why we keep seeing things like events occur in Flint, like they occurred in Flint, Michigan. That's why we're seeing what's going on in Standing Rock right now. So to me, yes, this is about a pipeline, but it's also about recognizing communities that through fossil fuel, or through the fossil fuel industry, through our government, through choices that I make, that you make, we contribute to an oppression and a suppression of certain marginalized communities. And what feels beautiful to me, and the reason why I've been camping in North Dakota with these guys for the past 2.5 weeks, the reason why I joined some of the runners for 2 days when they were running, there's a group of 36 kids ages 6 to 24 who ran by foot from North Dakota all the way to Washington, D.C. 2.5 weeks ago to hand the Army Corps of Engineers their petition opposing the pipeline. And the reason why I stood with them and ran a few days with them is because they recognize that this isn't about just a pipeline. This is about protecting future generations. Because right now, we can buy a bottle of water and we can find it for $1. In 10 years, if we keep going at the rate we're going, we're not going to have enough clean water to do that. Bottles of water are going to be $7, $10 for a cheap bottle of water. So it's something we have to start paying attention to, and these guys are, and I thank them for their strength and their bravery and their courage, because it's really hard to go against a system that doesn't have doors that are open to hearing your voices, right? It's, in many ways, I say this to them constantly, in many ways, I feel really saddened by the fact that I had to use my name as Shailene Woodley, this actor, and to gain media attention for this, because no one was listening.
So what should people know about what's going on here?
So there is a pipeline being built, or proposed to being built, which the Army Corps of Engineers issued a permit in North Dakota, right outside of Standing Rock Reservation. And right now, the tribal council and the tribal leaders are meeting with the Army Corps of Engineers. They're actually in court, going against them, saying that they oppose this pipeline, they don't want it built, and that proper steps were not taken in the Army Corps of Engineers' decision to issue a permit according to their treaty laws. So we're out here standing in solidarity, praying for all of those who are inside. And right now on the reservation, there is a camp with over 2,000 people. In 2 weeks, 2,000 people drove from all over the country to stand up and protest against the pipeline. There's a lot of rumors out there that it's violent and that there's pipe bombs and there's guns. I've been there myself camping, and there's no violence, there's no guns, there's no pipe bombs. The only pipes that there are sacred pipes that they pray with. There's kids running around laughing, there's people cooking for everyone. It's a communal sort of village that's sprouted up to oppose this pipeline. And I think I'm really angry that these rumors are spreading about this violence, because what is a peaceful movement of solidarity to stand up and say that we're done being pushed over, especially as Native Americans, and silenced and ignored after 150 years plus of this suppression. The truths are being spun into a means to make them seem violent and make them seem corrupt, and it's just not true.
So you're involved with this cause now, which in some ways is political. And you were involved with the Sanders campaign. Other actors from Hollywood, like Susan Sarandon and Rosario Dawson, were recently standing with you in New York. Mm-hmm. Why are Sanders supporters getting behind these environmental causes?
Because I think Bernie Sanders was the only presidential candidate who said that we have to do something about fracking now. We have to do something about pipelines now. We have to do something about climate change now. There's Josh Fox was just saying this, but there's a certain hypocrisy within the Democratic system right now. And Josh Fox is a climate change activist, and he was on the drafting committee in regards to climate change and the environment at the Democratic convention in Orlando. And when they drafted it up, we're saying to the world as Democrats that we oppose climate change, yet we're taking actions that don't necessarily match that opposition. Actions like switching from coal to natural gas to renewable energy. That's going to take 40 plus years. We don't have time. Our planet's already 1.5 degrees overheated, and it's just continuing to grow and to heat up. So we have technology to go from coal and natural gas straight to renewable energy. We don't need the bridge between all three. And I think that's why Bernie Sanders surrogates are standing strong in this fight as well. Also, to be totally honest, Bernie Sanders' campaign was built by and for the people. That's what Bernie said in every single rally, and that's what we're doing here. This is a movement that's by and for the people. And so I pray and I hope that our government, as it stands today, as well as our future candidates, or our future president, whether it's Hillary Clinton or Donald Trump, I ask them to make this an issue that they talk about and that they address. I want to know what Hillary Clinton thinks about this issue. I want to hear them debate about it, because these are really important things that moving forward, voters are going to want to know. Voters are going to want to know how the future of the Democratic Party is going to address Native Americans. Not just say that they honor the sovereignty of those nations, but how are they actually going to take steps and actions in standing in solidarity with those nations, seeing what they need, seeing how they can support, and doing something about it. And this is a beautiful opportunity to marry climate change as well as honoring the sovereignty of Native nations.
Any other things that you'd like our audience to know about this?
Yeah, I would just like to invite you to stand with us. You can sign the petition at change.org/REZPECT, our water, respect with a Z, our water. You can donate money to those of us on the ground at sacredstonecamp.org. We need food, we need water. You can send in donations. We have an Amazon wish list. So to find out more information, I invite you to visit either the Standing Rock Sioux Tribe's official website or sacredstonecamp.org. And come stand with us. Come to Standing Rock.